So in this video we're going to look at trigonometric identities. So at National 5 we have two of these that we need to know. We need to learn these. We've spoken about one before when we were talking about our graphs. So the first one that we know is that tan of x degrees is the same as sine x over cos x. And that's where our tan graph comes from. The other one comes from Pythagoras, and you're more than welcome to look up where this comes from. I'm just going to say what it is, but it's that sine squared x plus cos squared x is equal to 1. So both of these things are things that you are not given and that you need to remember. So these questions as well are quite tricky and they're worth very few marks. So it's something that's kind of focused on more and higher, but if you're really struggling with, it's something to kind of focus elsewhere for National 5 anyway. Right, so what we get given with these is we get questions where they tell us to show that things are equal to each other. So for example, we're going to do two different things. So we need to show that 1 minus sine squared x over cos x is just equal to cos x, right? So we need to just manipulate the things that we have at the top of here to get our left hand side and our right hand sides the same. So when we're doing this, what we do is we work with our left hand side until we get it to be the same as the right. So looking at our left hand side first, so we have 1 minus sine squared x over cos squared x. We're trying to manipulate this so that we get it to just cos x. Because we have a squared, we can see that the one we're probably going to want to use is going to be this one. So if we rearrange something that looks like this from this, we might get something that helps us out. The other thing with this is we know where we're ending up. So we know that our answer is cos x, and we know we have to divide by cos x because we have a fraction, so we know that the top is probably going to end up as cos squared x. So cos squared x divided by cos x just is going to give us the cos x on its own. So we're looking to manipulate it so that that happens. So we know that sine squared x plus cos squared x equals 1. If we take away our sine squared x from both sides, you can see that we end up with cos squared x is the same as 1 minus sine squared x. And 1 minus sine squared x is what we have. Oh, excuse that, I meant to do the arrow instead. So cos squared x is equal to 1 minus sine squared x. On the top we have 1 minus sine squared x. So that means we can take this 1 minus sine squared x here and replace it with cos squared x. So we end up with cos squared x on the top and cos x on the bottom. We can think of this kind of similarly to if we had x squared over x, because cos squared x and cos x are just the multiples of each other, same as x and x squared. So when we have that, we know we can cancel one from the bottom and the top. So we get cos x, which is our equal to our right hand side. So we're done. So that would be that question finished, and we have kind of all our marks. So we're always looking to just make, with these questions, to make the left hand side and the right hand side the same. So I'm just moving this down over here so we have some space to do a second example. So a second example, so let's see if we've got one that uses our other manipulation. So here we go. So if we show that let's say we have sine x tan x, need to be on the pen, so sine x tan x, we should have degree signs on all of these, but sometimes I do forget, is equal to sine squared x over cos x. So again, we're starting looking at our left-hand side and trying to make it look like our right one. So we have sine x, tan x, and we know that tan x is equal to sine over cos, so we can replace that into here. So sine x degrees times by sine x degrees over cos x degrees. When we're doing this, we have a whole, so I've put dots in here, that's just times. We're multiplying the two together, so we've got sine x times by sine x over cos x. When we've got one thing times by a fraction, that's the same as just if this first one was kind of like over 1. So we do top times top and bottom times bottom. So sine x times sine x is sine squared x. Just a wee note for these, so sine squared x is the same as sine x squared. So those two are identical, and that follows for sine, cos, and tan. So sine x on the top, 1 times cos x, just have cos x on the bottom, so we get our right hand side. So that is our answer. So when we're doing this, it's all about manipulating, multiplying our fractions together and things like that, so that we get what the questions asked us to show. So in this case, these are quite straightforward when you get the hang of them, because then you've got the answer in the question and you're just trying to say, well, I managed to get what you asked me to. If there's any other questions, feel free to post a comment.